spiritual, and I really need to do a video on this, discussing this matter, because this is really how I came to this study. It was studying first spirituality, and it was a big leap from when I understood the spiritual stuff and the power of positive thinking and all that, but to make the leap into this legal stuff, it was not so easy because we're so entrenched in this life. I mean, when somebody discussed with me the paycheck I thought I was working for was not mine, and the bank account was not mine, and I'm saying, what do you mean I worked for it? Well, again, the paycheck was made payable to the name, and the bank account was in the name, and who owns the name? The state. So it's not that there's a problem with this, but if they own it and they're benefiting from it, you have to remember everything I do in that name that was sent to me benefits them. How they monetize it, securitize it, and profit from it. You get a loan, you use a credit card, somehow they profit from this. And of course, how do they profit? It's obvious, or maybe you're not aware, the Federal Reserve is basically a private banking cartel. And what happens is everything, and I'm repeating myself from previous video just in case you haven't seen it, everything in the United States within its jurisdiction has a first lien, irrecusable, that's the correct word, irrecusable first lien obligation upon all property within the jurisdiction of the United States. And the reason why is because nothing is ever paid for. When you take out the US currency in the wallet you use, what does it say on it? Federal Reserve note. So if it's a Federal Reserve note, the definition of a note is debt. What are, by definition, Federal Reserve notes? Under the statute, this is the, which I'm going to get into in a bit, but the quick way of saying it, Federal Reserve notes are debt obligations of the United States under 18 U.S.C. 8 and 12 U.S.C. 411. And again, in previous videos, I made reference you should be using the statutes at large because those are for the public. And remember, the U.S. Code is prima facie evidence. It's not necessarily positive law that's been enacted accordingly, whatever that means. So the congressional intent does go back to the statutes at large. So continuing on with this, I keep interrupting myself. At times I believe your probate, oh wait, I already did that. I'm of the age of, let me read this, no, I read that. Since I have, I'll do this one. Since I have a multitude of questions that require honest and direct answers, probably a public forum would not be in the best place to discuss this matter openly, as it is my understanding this could create a national security issue. Besides, how is one able to affirm or swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, when one is forced into a public court to find out exactly what is the truth? I believe that the complete remedy to be resolved requires that a proper and authorized public trustee administrate this person, which I am the intended, authorized, and exclusive user for the benefit of the United States as usufructuary, so that I need not intermeddle in the infant's estate and be required to account thereafter. And again, that comes from Corpus Juris Secundum, which I'm going to get to. Remember, intermeddle in the infant's estate could be deemed the same thing as making a claim to the name. So continuing on, as I'm not looking to play the role of trustee or executor de sumpter, by my not intermeddling by presumption or necessity, remember what the term by necessity means, it's law goes out the window because it's necessary. So I need to have shelter. I'm not going to stay outside under the stars. I need to eat. I can't go to the store without giving them Federal Reserve notes or a credit card. You know, it's just not going to happen. So by presumption or necessity, comma, I truly believe that an authorized public official as proper trustee can provide the United States the aid and support to reduce, or as I prefer, to obliterate, extinguish, and retire the national debt where obligations of the person are discharged rather than through the use of private credit or debt obligations of the United States. And here I reference the actual statutes at large. 38 Stat 265 and 62 Stat 685. 38 265, 62 685. Continuing on, I have spoken to several people who believe the name or person is their property. I have found no evidence to support this belief, either other than the man as authorized exclusive user has, I suspect, the authority to provide a signature for the release of the equitable interest to and for the account of the United States in order to balance the books. So let me stop here again and say we have to remember, as best as I understand it, when that birth event, remember they don't record human beings, they record birth events, they take that birth certificate and who knows what they do with it, but they securitize or monetize it and they get Federal Reserve notes. How much, who knows, who cares, it doesn't matter, but they monetize it. So what the United States gets is fictional paper to fund their government and administration. So what that has is money came in, but what kind of money is it? It's not lawful money, it's Federal Reserve notes. So therefore there's a debt to pay back. So whose ass is that on? Well, it's true, it is the United States, but we have to remember, if we go back to the congressional records in the 1933, I believe it was, and I don't have that in front of me, it says, in the actual, all our homes and other property will be mortgaged. So everything is mortgaged in the United States. So continuing on, the certified copy of the birth certificate was sent to me intentionally, evidences that if not for my existence on planet Earth, this document would not exist. Therefore, though I may not be the primary beneficiary, as the original certificate title or instrument has been retained by the state of New York, I believe that I would qualify as an incidental beneficiary by mere fact that everything I do in the name or property benefits the principal, the United States, and not me. No me, no benefit, and no benefit is received by the principal. With the surrender of the usufruct, in brackets, not making a false claim to property owned by another, end brackets, and the reversionary interest, I believe this should rebut any presumption of the someday return to make a claim to this estate. Since there is no full disclosure at the time the name is delivered to the person or child, and again, person or child, what is that? A fiction of law. Again, these lawyers, boy, they have a way of saying things. There is evidence to suggest an unconscionable fraud and deception, and may I add, I have not been able to find any specific authority for the retention of the original birth record or instrument, only for the state to provide a certified copy. Under New York State Statute Section 4137, Bert's notice of recording and whatever it is. Again, what has happened is, and this goes back to 12 U.S.C. 95A, is that's actually at the federal level, but it says nothing at the state level that they get to retain the original. So when the president makes a declaration of war or an act of emergency, blah, 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 the Constitution, everything goes to the side. And what happens is all property is retained. As I said, it was in the congressional record. And What's my point? And therefore, we've been left totally naked and spoliated. And again, the word spoliated comes from the Libra Code, Article 38. Continuing on. Per 12 U.S.C. 95A, as ratified under 12 U.S.C. 95B, since March 9, 1933, it appears the United States is the intended beneficiary of all property held within its jurisdiction, with the state being the trustee and the hospital or registrar being the grantors. I being left spoliated or naked owner, and remember, what am I been left with? I'm spoliated or left naked. I can't do anything. Everything I do benefits the state. I can't own anything, so all my labor and sweat and blood and equity, all that automatically vests to the state. I, being left spoliated or naked owner to my property, meaning my ability to do as I please, when I please, and me benefit from it, believe I could be deemed as a beneficiary of the United States Corporate Trust as one of the posterity once I have accepted the offer as outlined under the last line of the Declaration of Independence. The bottom line is, each living soul has been provided freely unalienable natural inherent rights by his creator, and such creator is owner of the earth and everything upon the earth. These unalienable rights per se were seized by necessity, authorized by law of the United States in support of a declared national state of emergency. From a broad perspective, I do understand the purpose behind the fiction, as there would be chaos in the streets without the fiction appearing real. In a good faith effort, I'm trying to offer support to the United States. All I ask is that the authorized public trustee step up to the plate and administrate the property of the state or the name, Anthony Rubio, according to the rule of usufruct. If I am in error with this supposition, then I ask for forgiveness and correction. Each living soul has been given by his creator the gift of free will and therefore choice. Each living soul has the right to consent and agree to voluntary servitude which would not violate the 13th Amendment. We have to remember the servitude is against the 13th. They can't force you, but you can always volunteer to be a servant. Continuing on. Man, through his free will, has the right to exchange his unalienable rights for man's inalienable rights. It is understood by me, with freedom comes responsibility. Life operates on a two-way street. I have not found any authority provided by the supreme authority, meaning God, where a man or group of men have any right to subject another man to any form, enslavement, suretyship, control, or the will of the majority, except through man's free will consent. I do not come to you to get away with something. I'm looking for remedy in order to help. As this is a lengthy communication, I do not want to bore you with any more details at this time. When we meet in private, as I am willing to discuss the basic information from various documents, Law of Nations, Hague, Libra Code, IRS Manual 6209, that's where the tax class 5 tax forms I got from, etc. Without doubt, I do not have a complete understanding, nor should you expect this. However, I believe my overall understanding suggests valid points in law and history. I would ask that you contact me within 5 days of receipt of correspondence to set up a private meeting with you. Again, I come to you in peace, in good faith, and in support of the United States, and I signed it by Anthony. And then the enclosures were an authenticated birth certificate, copy of affidavit of life with reference material, letter to James Madison, FDR Executive Order 6102, and this had a total pages of 36. So, the authenticated birth certificate, and that was 4 pages. The affidavit of life. Let's see, maybe I'll stop here.